Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. For those of you that are regulars and for those of you that are new, welcome to the family. Before I begin, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe. It's really important that you subscribe, please. So smash that subscribe button right below and let's get into it. So today I'm talking about something really personal to me. I am talking about my dyslexia story. Before I begin, I'm going to tell you why I'm talking about it. So for those of you who don't already know, I started like a tuition side hustle. I'm going to call it a tuition side hustle when I was 12. And I've built it up and it's grown into an education business. So it's an education hub called Enrich Learning, where people can access tuition for a fee, for an affordable fee, but also access lots of information to help optimize your education experience, whether that be in school, college, university. And this information is for parents, carers, tutors, teachers. It's for everyone that wants to know a bit about education. It's for you. And one thing I have started this year is we have a theme for every month, and this month's theme is neurodiversity. So my story is very linked to the theme, and obviously this being the first theme ever for Enrich Learning, it was a no-brainer. Excuse the pun. It was a no-brainer because I just feel like it's something that's not spoken about, and it really, at some points in my life, especially in my academic life, it really affected me, like not talking about it in the way that I'm doing now. So let's get stuck in. I found out that I am dyslexic aged 11. I just left home. I'd gone to boarding school. I'd struggled in primary school with writing, reading and spelling. And I mentioned that because Google says, let me put it up, because what Google thinks dyslexia is, I don't necessarily agree. My definition isn't anything to go by. I just kind of made a definition to help me cope with it. But Google says that dyslexia is a learning disorder that involves difficulty reading due to problems identifying speech, sound, and learning how they relate to letters and words. Brackets, decoding. Also called reading disability, dyslexia affects areas of the brain that process language. Now, I like the NHS's definition because it says all of that in a much simpler fashion, and most of you will probably understand that definition. So I'll tell you what that is. They say that dyslexia is a common learning difficulty that can cause problems with reading, writing, and spelling. So I found out that I am dyslexic aged 11. It was a bit of a shock, but a massive relief as well, because when I was at school, primary school, whilst I was able to do well in my studies, I still struggled to get there. And I remember when I was growing up, there are 4 of us in my family. I am the eldest and the rest are 3 boys. And my mum used to do spelling tests with us, like together. And I always used to fail and I always used to feel really rubbish about it. And she tried so many different things, phonetic, like literally so many different things, breaking the word up. It just wasn't hitting home. So finding out whilst I was at secondary school was a huge relief for her. I was assessed, and in that assessment, I still remember it really well. I had to write out this one sentence again and again and again. And then I had to also do some processing exercises and look at different shapes. And I remember having to recall different numbers back. Those of you who are dyslexic or have a neurodiverse challenge, you will maybe recognize what I'm saying. Anyway, had this assessment, results got processed, comes back that I am indeed dyslexic, and I got the best support ever when I was in secondary school, from 3 teachers especially, and I'm going to give them a shout out. So Mr. Lewis Mr. McFeet, Mrs. Golding, you guys are just incredible, because without the support that I had throughout my 7 years of secondary school and sixth form, I don't think that I would be able to have completed my undergrad and now be on the way to completing my master's. So a lot of love for you guys. But essentially I used to meet with these teachers once to twice a week, and we would have like one-to-one sessions, and I would learn different coping mechanisms. And I remember when I sat down to be tested to find out what coloured paper worked best for me. So for those of you who might not know, some dyslexic people, not all, some dyslexic people work better on coloured paper, and it's a specific colour that works for them. And unfortunately, I don't have any to hand to show you my shade, but my shade is a really bright yellow. I tell you what though, because I read everything on this colour, I was in the gym this morning, and my plan, I put on a yellow background. I'm just pulling it up for you guys. Don't know if you can see it, see? So this is my yellow. And when I was at school, all my paperwork was put on this yellow. My exams would be printed on this yellow. I was given a yellow overlay, and they had several yellow overlays made for me. And I carried that overlay around with me, close to my heart, because without it, reading is a challenge. When I was at school, and this is the first time that I'm bringing this up, I really struggled with the fact that I'm dyslexic. And when I look back on it now, there are a number of reasons why that was the case. I think the first one being that I'd never known another Black dyslexic person, and so I felt like there was something fundamentally wrong with me, which simply isn't the case. And kids can be cruel, and I remember sometimes having to pull out the yellow paper, and people would take the mick, and some people wouldn't be very nice. And I have an issue with reading green on white, so I found that quite challenging. And so my teachers would be told not to use green pen, and I remember that being in the class, like that was always a topic of conversation, and it got a bit jarring, like it got a bit tiring. Why is everyone making this thing into a big deal when it's not? So yeah, I remember feeling really down, and I remember Googling like, who is dyslexic celebrities, dyslexic successful people, and a lot of white men came out. The people who come up again and again, although they are geniuses in their own right, is Albert Einstein and Jamie Oliver. And so I felt, okay, great, I've got this thing that only kind of, not old, but you know, in my head at the age of 11, old white men have. Great, there's definitely something wrong with me. And I wish I had spoken about it to the teachers that I've mentioned in this video, because I know for a fact that they would have dispelled that horrid thought I had in my head like that immediately, because they were so supportive like that. But I guess I wasn't grown up enough to admit that perhaps I have a little bit of a problem with it. Anyway, I didn't let that hold me back. I went to university, and when you're at university, you have to be proactive about this. So if you're watching this and thinking, I struggle with reading, I struggle with writing, my spelling is pants, or I struggle with my spelling, do go to the disability department in your university and speak to them about it. So because I knew that I am dyslexic, I went to the university actually before term started, spoke to them and said, this is what I've got, this is the arrangement, i.e. I get 25% extra time in my exams, woo! I read off yellow paper, I see someone in the school's teaching and learning support department on a weekly basis, and they assist me. They sat me down and they were like, okay, that's great, but now that you're 18, you have to be assessed again. So I did that, in fact, it was very similar, the assessment I did aged 18. An educational psychologist then kind of processed the results and sent me the longest report ever, as in the report is a good 35 pages. I read the whole thing though, because I was obviously quite interested to read about her findings. she agreed that I am dyslexic, and then lots of support got put in for me. So I got something called a KIP, which is known as a King's Inclusion Plan. Other universities will have inclusion plans of this nature, I hope. And if they don't, they should sort that out. But it'll probably be called something different. Anyway, I got a KIP, which gave me a cover sheet, which I get to put on the front of my coursework and any assignments and exams, that just notifies the examiner that, hey, this person's dyslexic, they struggle with spelling, reading, writing. You know, if her sentences are a little bit, you know, funny, then cut her some slack, because she's got to deal with this challenge as well as do what everyone else is doing. And I got my extra time, so I have that extra time to plan more effectively and write better essays. And I was given like a disability advisor that I can contact at any time, and we just have a chat. I mean, she's fantastic. We just talk about different sort of challenges that I faced and ways of coping, and she gave me loads of materials and access to loads of websites, and I'm gonna link some of them below, because even if you're not dyslexic, like, some of them are super useful. Yeah, and that's where we're at. And now I'm in this phase where I'm moving slowly out of education. I think PhD on the cards, who knows. Not right now though. I am tired. I love what I'm doing, but I'm tired at the moment. And I'm moving into work. And I notified my employers that I am dyslexic, and they received it so warmly. Like, it wasn't even treated like it was an issue. When I had to do the assessments for like some of the big consulting firms, so EY, PwC, Deloitte, KPMG, I did the exams for all of them. I sent them my report that I got when I was 18, and they just added extra time onto the exams for me without a problem. So now that I'm moving into the next phase, I'm becoming so much more comfortable with the idea that I'm dyslexic. In fact, I celebrate it, because I think that dyslexia just means that you think and you process things in a different and potentially more creative way. And that's kind of why I want to share this story, because 10 years is a long time. That's what I'm starting to learn. Well, it's just over half of my life. And having had the first 10 years of my life not knowing that I had this challenge, and then the latter 10 years knowing and having all this different support, my success has been incredible. Like, off the scale, unimaginable. Never in a million years would I have ever thought that I would have come this far. So to those of you who are battling with some sort of neurodiverse challenge, whether it be dyslexia, dyspraxia, ADHD, the list goes on, this is a little message of hope that you will have those moments where you think that you are perhaps not as clever or not as good as everybody else. But I promise you, those feelings go away if you get the support that you need, and if you accept it. Because I think for a short period of time, I also didn't want to accept the fact that I am dyslexic, because I didn't want the stigma, and there is no stigma, by the way, that comes with it. So yeah, that's my story. If I can cope with it, then so can you. And if you're a parent or a teacher or a guardian or carer who is supporting someone where you're starting to notice these signs, please, 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 please get that child, get that young person, get that adult, because people find out in their adult age as well that they are dyslexic, the support that they need, so that they can really, really embrace all their potentials and just be the best version of themselves. Okay guys, until next time, if you have any questions about dyslexia, drop them in the comments box below. I will respond. And I'm soon going to be doing with Enrich Learning a webinar with an educational psychologist and a couple of people that are in the neurodiversity space to give you more information, so keep your eyes peeled. Until then. Bye!